Insurance Committee meeting December 18, 2024 to order. We have all committee members present, so we have a quorum. Before we begin, I'd like to make a couple of requests. First of staff, if we can make sure that those microphones are turned up and turned on and plenty loud enough. And of course, anyone to get up to the microphone, I respectfully request you please speak into the microphone and loudly. The meeting is streamed online, and we need not only for the folks at home to be able to hear it, but we need to be able to hear it if we want to go back and find out what we said. So please speak clearly. In order to prevent any interruption, please speak into the microphone and clearly. So thank you. All right, we'll jump right into our agenda. Item 2.1, review and approval of the Board Insurance Committee meeting minutes from the October 2nd, 2024 meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion that the committee approve the minutes from the Board Insurance Committee meeting on October 2nd, 2024.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? With that, I'd like to call for the votes.
Mr. Lejeune?
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron?
Yes.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Yes.
3 for, none against.
All right, motion carries. Item 2.2, discussion and/or action regarding the Gallagher report. Sure, Ms. LaBeouf, if you'd like to come up and make a brief intro.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Trish LaBeouf. I am the Director of Insurance and Benefits. I would like to introduce the Gallagher team to review the December reporting to you. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Tony Murray with Gallagher. We're going to be going over the monthly financial monitoring report and a few of these other items here. This would be page 4 of the report, the financial monitoring report. This is the summary. The full report can be found in the appendix. And this is reporting through November of 2024. And what you'll see, I'll draw your, this is broken down by enrollment here, claims. Then we have medical claims, pharmacy claims. Then we have the pharmacy rebates, as well as the retiree subsidies from the government. And then the specific reimbursements from our reinsurance gives us our total net claim payments. This also shows you the prior year at this time. Then below here, we have all of our fixed costs, our total fixed costs, and the total self-funded Blue Cross plan cost. Oh, yep. Thank you. Right here. Both of these columns, we have a per employee per month in the middle and then a per member per month on the right. When we get over here to contributions, because these are, because this is mixing the Humana Medicare population with the self-funding, this gets shifted directly to a per member per month. We then see the employee contributions. And so the total cost to LPSS through November 2024 net of the employee contributions is $26 million. We then see the funding allocation. This is where the premiums coming from the employees as well as the employer, LPSS, all of the contributions together, plus the different contributions from the general fund, as well as the ending fund balance, shows our funding allocation, or maybe referred to as the budget, the actual cost. So we have a surplus or net, deficit of $2.4 million through November, end of November. Any questions?
In the interest of simplifying such a report, can you tell me why you present per employee per month and per member per month? And also, I don't want to ask a question, but I'd like for you to go into just a little bit greater detail on exactly what these numbers mean.
Okay. So we break it down into a per employee per month and a per member per month so that you can compare month to month, even when we don't have a full year. So just to know where we are, if you wanted to look at the report that we presented in September, for example, you might see that we are at $682 per employee per month is how we calculate the claims here. The per member per month, this would be, when we say per employee, obviously it's employee, but when we say per member, this is every belly button on the plan. So that might be employee, spouse, and the children. So breaking the total dollars into a per employee per month and a per member per month allows you to compare unequal periods. You know, when we're only looking at 6 months over a year, being able to look at that year to year. Did that help clarify that? As far as the breakdown, what everything means here, because this is a self-funded health plan, in other words, LPSS is the insurer. We use Blue Cross as the third-party administrator. Lafayette Parish pays for the medical claims. They also pay for the pharmacy claims, and they also do receive rebates and then reimbursements back from the reinsurance carrier. These are the variable costs. These are the costs that are not the same every month. These will fluctuate throughout the year. We also have fixed costs. These are the administration fees to run the benefits department, stop-loss premiums, other admin fees, such as the different point solutions, the PBM fees, in addition to the, these admin fees are from the carrier, for the medical carrier. Then we have the stop-loss premiums. We have the other admin fees, which would be for the point solutions. Then we have the PBM fees for the pharmacy benefit managers. This is the consultant fee. This is your broker. And then the administration, this is the fee for running the department. And then we have interest income to offset that. That is the money that I believe you guys are earning from LAMP. And those would be the total fixed costs. Those costs are pretty much stable each month. We put those together, and that becomes the total plan cost for the self-funded plan. I'll then direct you over here to the right. We also have, for the entire expense of the benefits for the employees and retirees, we also have the Humana Medicare Advantage premiums. So you add that in addition to the self-funded plan, and that brings our total health plan cost at $32 million.
So if you exclude that, you're telling me that the number is 29.8. Total claims paid.
Total claims paid is 29.8, yes.
And prior year to date is 26, so we're about $3.4 million.
Yeah,
over.
which is in line with medical inflation and pharmacy inflation, yep. And then we have the funding allocations, which is, again, the contributions that are coming from the general fund, as well as the sales tax, in addition to the employee contributions added together with any transfers from the general fund. We add that together. That's what we consider your budget to say whether you're in a surplus or a deficit.
Let me interrupt and say that I'm not quite sure. We have these items on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, as action or information. So in the event that a motion is not made to accept the report, which is a old practice, do we still have a notepad on the podium?
I'm not sure, but I can ask one.
If there are any questions during the process of this presentation, please go to the notepad and write your questions so that we can get them answered. In the event that there is not a motion, we'd like, all questions answered. So if you have a question, if you could just go to the podium in the back there where Dr. Robley is and just write your question on the notepad, we'll get to it before the next agenda item.
Okay. Were there any other questions?
Okay, so the next few items that we have here today are some strategies, some trending strategies out there in the market that we're seeing. We obviously want to talk through our 2025 annual service calendar. I'm not going to go through this in detail because the next few slides will highlight some items within this service calendar. This service calendar will stay in our BIC presentations month to month. So really, I'm going to focus on January through March, those main items that we will be working through in the next few months. Items like, of course, setting your budget rates for 7/1. We'll have those initial budget rates ready in January, and we'll finalize those budget rates in February. We are working through a pharmacy, what we call market check, meaning, bringing your PBMs out to the market, running that analysis of how we can create savings from a pharmacy perspective, as well as an ASO market check. So we will be going out to the market with other carriers or TPAs that would also administer your claims. That includes, but is not limited to, direct contracting, exchange type of programs. So a multitude of programs that we want to look at for 2026 from a medical perspective. And I'll get into a few other items as well. But here on this slide, we just wanted to highlight some of the items that we were able to execute in 2024 for the 2025 plan year. We were able to negotiate your current pharmacy contract with RX Benefits, who's one of your current PBMs. We were able to negotiate a slightly better contract and renewal with Blue Cross of Louisiana. We implemented both Tria Health and Lantern, which are those point solutions. Tria Health is a chronic care solution driven through pharmacy, and then Lantern is a surgery carve-out point solution. We also are in the midst of a very in-depth dependent audit to ensure that those dependents that are enrolled in your medical plan are truly eligible under your contract and legally, able to participate in the program. There was also a new hire Medicare Advantage mandatory migration that is going into effect for those new hires effective 1/1. And that's for the future, for when they retire. And then, of course, there were some premium increases. For 2025, these are what we feel are important for us to look at for your future, right? But in the next slide, after I talk through some of these items, we do have some other items out there too that, we'd love to see your interest in some of them, or if you have questions with some of them, we'd love to gauge your interest on those items as well. But what we think is, of course, most important is, like I mentioned before, a self-funded TPA market check, including something similar to your standard self-funded program that you have today, in addition to other items like direct contracting and exchange-style programs where you actually have a multitude of TPAs that sit up next against each other. So there's a few areas that we're going to analyze when it comes to who's administering your claims. A full pharmacy market check, like I stated before. We're going to look at plan design, modeling, changes, network evaluations. Of course, we'll work on the projection and rate development for 2026. We would like to continue to analyze your fully insured Medicare Advantage program, your self-funded EGWIC program, and that's something that we're going to continuously evaluate and analyze. Direct contracting, like I stated before, that goes hand in hand with the medical market check and other network strategy options. Technology, things like a benefit administration system, things of that nature. Because, for example, when we look at what I call an exchange-style benefit program, where maybe you have a United Healthcare as a TPA, and you have plans through United or paired with a Blue Cross, and your members get to choose. They choose what network, what plan design. Well, in those instances, you do have to have the technology that would work with a program like that. So they go hand in hand. So while we evaluate other network strategy options, we also have to evaluate the current technology that you guys utilize today. Other items such as a Go to the Doctor campaign and return on investment analysis, I'll just high level talk through what that is. It's a program that really tries to steer your members, one, away from using urgent cares when it's not medically necessary, and ERs when it's not medically necessary, and try to educate and steer them into other avenues of establishing a primary care physician and things of that nature where they can have that relationship with their doctor and utilize their doctor for those instances as opposed to using an ER and an urgent care. So that paired with other ways where there's a carrot or a stick to get them to establish those relationships with their providers. There are savings in these types of programs. So this is one of those programs we want to look at in depth for you guys for 2026. In addition to that, we'd like to look into some neoplasm carve-out point solutions. So very similar to the surgery carve-out solution that is going into effect this year, but it focuses on neoplasms and oncology. How can we prevent cancer? How do we treat cancer? And how do we forecast for maybe the future? So there's different stages of these types of programs. You do have large claimants in your large claimant category with neoplasms. It's typically, in your top 10 diagnoses really across the board. So we do think a point solution for these types of diagnoses would be something that would be important. So we're doing that analysis for 2026 as well. And then, I have that question, what other initiatives do you want to see or are you interested in? And that leads me into this next slide because, of course, it's not always smart to implement every single one of these trending strategies in 1 year, right? You want to really have a game plan and, a 3 to 5 year strategy rollout to implement these programs because you want them to be effective. You don't want to just throw something at the wall and hope that it sticks without really analyzing and being strategic about the programs that you implement. So these are some other ones. COBRA enhancement services. We actually have a solution at no cost for this already that I'm starting to work with some internal team members to be able to showcase it to you guys. This is a program that we can roll out at any time throughout the year. It basically is an educational program to try to educate your members that maybe leave Lafayette Parish, and instead of them electing COBRA, it educates them on all of the opportunities that they have access to as it relates to healthcare that may be more beneficial for them to elect one over the other. So they're certified in Medicare, Medicaid, other individual policies, the exchange. So there's different routes that this program and solution that we have for your members will be effective to roll out. Another important item is mental health EAP. So this is something that we think is important. It also does tie into the Go to the Doctor campaign solution as well. So we think it's something important. Recently, we had another system where they had an EAP program in place, and we found that it just hadn't been utilized like it should be. And so we did a market check, and then we actually kept them with the same vendor because they did have some utilization, but we were able to enhance that program to something that is way more beneficial. We rolled it out to assistant principal and principal meetings in every city, and really increase that utilization and increase the benefit to the employees. And in turn, when your employees have good mental health and they're not leaving work to take care of those items, it really does impact the way that they work and stay at work and things of that nature. So it's a trickle effect into some of those other top diagnoses as well. We do see a linkage from mental health to the physical health. So we think that would be something important to look at as well. We're currently, like I said, we're already implemented the dependent audit. There's other items such as claims audits to make sure that your claims administrator is actually processing the claims like they should, that there's no bad waste within the claims that are being processed. So that's another important item, especially of a group of your size, right? So there may be some waste claims that are being processed and paid by Lafayette that are unnecessary. So a claims audit is something.
So let me jump in right quick there,
Yeah.
because this is I'm not saying it's unusual, but this is an interesting situation where our TPA also happens to be the company that provides the network.
Right.
So we should always have had an audit and a second opinion. And so I'm glad that this is on the table, because it only makes sense. Again, it's kind of like, it's not a conflict of interest, but it's as close as you're going to get to one. So
Yeah, it's really important to have an outside vendor audit your TPA. Now, do the TPAs like it? Maybe not, but but it is important, I would say, especially for a group of your size. So that is something that we're looking at and approaching vendors to get what that cost would look like and what that return on investment would look like for you guys.
What about this piece?
Do it.
Did you want the workers' comp piece?
Yeah, and we do have, I think another ties into this, the workers' comp and medical claims coordination. So there's also kind of similar to the claims audit. Workers' comp and medical claims sometimes get hairy, right? So we do have some team members, and I am not an expert in this, but Gallagher, we have the folks that are experts. We've been reaching out to them to look into what solutions can they provide to try to catch those wasted types of claims, where who really should be liable and on the hook for those claims. So it's a solution that we're also looking into. Any questions on some of those trending strategies?
Yes. So going back to the 2025 annual service calendar, January 2025.
Yep.
Can you describe what the cancer carve-out analysis is, like what it looks like, what that process is?
Yeah, so it's a market check. So it's very similar to Lantern, which is the program y'all are implementing for 1/1/25, which is that surgery carve-out, where they're trying to drive patients to the best providers for those types of surgeries that they need. It's the same center of excellence type of program where they're steering folks that possibly, and there's different programs. So I'm going to bring back to you guys a bunch of different types. There's preventative programs that you guys can look at. Then there's those diagnostic programs where maybe then they're steering members like a choice, because with Lantern, the way you guys move forward with that is it's on a voluntary basis, right? So if the member wants to see this oncologist and wants to go through that program, then they would steer them to the best oncologist for that type of cancer that person has for their care. So it's a carve out. So we have to basically, we work with the vendors to look at, your claims and information. They price it, they say, this is what the cost might be. This is the savings based on your current claims data, things like that. So it's a point solution to try to control those types of claims,
Thank you.
but also better outcomes to the member.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
I don't know if you or Mrs. LaBeouf is going to speak to this, but the dependent audit,
Yep.
That's kind of coming to a head. It turns out that it's pretty intense in some ways. I mean, folks have to actually get up and do something.
Yep.
And it cost them out of their pocket. I see the value of it. I think it needed to be done, but it was certainly a disruption. Do you know where we stand on that audit as it relates to, how many members how many members or employees have not completed the audit? And if that's something for
There-
Ms. LaBeouf, she could talk about it during her report.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You want to speak to it, or you want me to high level speak to it? I can high level. Yeah, I can high level speak to it. The last update, I think we had a few hundred folks, few hundred plus folks. Here we go. So we have about 778 complete, 155 under their definition of incomplete, meaning they started it, maybe have submitted something, and then they're coming back saying we need something else. And then we have 453 with no response. I will tell you, though, that the vendor is saying that y'all are much more ahead of the game compared to most. So it's still a little too early to say we don't have 453, what are we going to do? There does come a point in time, though, where the vendor will then reach back out to Trish, who then maybe will have to come back and say, how would you like to move forward with the folks that just have decided not to submit anything, right? No response. There's different avenues we can take, and I don't want to get into that in this meeting today, but that's kind of where we are. But y'all are actually in a decent spot compared to most groups of your size.
And when was the first deadline, or when is the first deadline?
The first deadline was 12/18, I believe.
Today.
I'm going to go into detail on that.
Okay.
But there's some extensions. I mean, like, it goes into January too. So. And yeah, you can speak to the specifics. Any other questions? I'm going to let Kim speak a little bit more in depth about direct contracting.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Briard. I'm a consultant at Gallagher. We just wanted to spend a couple minutes on direct contracting considerations and opportunities. I know in our prior meetings, we spent quite a bit of time talking about, network opportunities within your current TPA arrangement with Blue Cross, right? So they have engaged with the provider community to develop narrow network or select network or direct contracting arrangements that are outside of their broad networks. And most of our TPAs do have the ability to do some of that type of things. So when we go out for RFP on your TPAs, the Blue Crosses of the world, Uniteds of the world, they all have just different network arrangements, broad networks, statewide networks, narrow networks, all of that varies. And, we want to make sure that you understand that those different network arrangements do impact the amount of dollars that you're paying for your claims, right? So that is a very important process when you're evaluating a TPA to evaluate the network, because your claims are representing the large part of your self-funded spend. So we definitely recognize that. Here we just wanted to kind of outline the opportunities for direct contracts. So obviously, contracting directly with a provider could create some cost savings for employer and employees, right? So, think about it on the provider side. If you're willing to steer individuals to a certain provider, they're willing to give you a deal to do that, right? So there's going to be cost saving opportunities with that. It does create flexibility and customization within your health plan. And then you are able to kind of develop your own network of providers. So having the ability to include or exclude providers is where that customization comes into play. There's always a give and take, though. So there are, downsides to that customization, because you would be excluding certain providers. The direct contracting usually comes with a potential or lack of discounts when you're going into that arrangement. So, I think Mr. Hidalgo, you mentioned, Blue Cross owning their own network. There are other TPAs out there that have no network, right? Where there's no network of providers. You are in charge of paying the providers like you want to pay them. We call that reference-based pricing. So you're paying them based on some type of reference. a lot of times that reference is reference to Medicare. So you could say, hey, we're going to pay the providers 140% of Medicare. That provider, since they're not contracted with you, maybe some are, maybe some aren't, they don't have to take that amount, right? Because there's no contract arrangement in place. And then there's other administrators that help negotiate those kind of things. So the more aggressive that you get, the more outside of what we call the BUCAs, the Blue Cross and Uniteds, there's a bigger potential for cost savings, but could include some disruption and noise, and some balanced billing that maybe your employees would get. So we just wanted to kind of outline, again, the pros and cons of that, make sure you're aware that there are these arrangements out there, and this is going to be a part of our ASO evaluation when we go out for RFP.
Market check.
The market check,
So-
yes, yep.
Let me first of all start off with, although I appreciate your views on the pros and the cons to this, but I've heard it from many of these board members that are even outside of the three that are here, that this board is looking for whatever cost savings that it needs to. And this thing about Blue Cross will not allow LPSS. Let me tell you something. I don't vote on this, but I can tell you I have a hard time with people saying that you're not allowed. Well, my question is, provide us with opportunities to bring to this board to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure, because this is the board's money. This is the taxpayers' money, and I
Sure.
don't think that Blue Cross ought to hold anybody hostage. And those words seem to me very, to where you can't do this type of thing. And I'm just trying to give our board members an opportunity. I'm just gonna ask that you guys do what you need to be overly aggressive and don't take no for an answer.
Sure.
Because this is the taxpayers' dollars, and we need to provide whatever options that we can to make sure that we're getting the biggest bang for our buck.
Yeah, and I guess disallow is, I guess, a strong word, right? I mean, the school board is able to do anything outside of their Blue Cross contract, right? So if you enter into a contract with a provider and those claims do not run through your current plan, and there's another arrangement, kind of, similar to what you're doing with the surgery carve out, right? Then that is definitely allowed, right? Blue Cross has no control over that. The point that we're making here is that Blue Cross has provider contracts, and those provider contracts limit what Blue Cross can do within their own provider contracts. Outside of Blue Cross, they have no control over that. You want to add anything to that, Mel?
I guess I'm just going to try to make it a little bit simpler. There's no doubt that, when we negotiate with the vendor community, some vendors are more flexible than others. And what you're going to probably hear us say, if we have that opportunity, we hear on a long-term basis, is we're going to come back to you and say, these guys aren't as flexible. And by them not being that flexible, then the question is, what are we getting in return for that? So a lot of times when we're told no, it may be that it's still the best option. I'm not commenting on who's the best network for you at the moment. I'd like him to go in more detail on how we evaluate network opportunities. It's certainly not our team. It's a staff of folks who do this on a regular basis. And not only are they reviewing the market check questionnaire, they're also auditing adherence. Because you can go into a contract with anybody, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to live up to it. So the question is, what is the performance guarantees as well? So we have a whole team of people who do that work for us. And what I can tell you, Mr. Superintendent, is Gallagher is totally agnostic, but we are only as good as the team of people who evaluate the networks. And I would hope that, we all have a good amount of respect for those people. I know I do. But to your point, nothing will be not unturned. Every rock. So what I would say, and we tell our clients this on a regular basis, if you've heard of something and we haven't brought it to your attention, it's probably because we've tried to quantify, if you will, what's most important to least important. A lot of times our clients will bring something to our attention that we haven't brought to your attention, and we'll have a white paper on it where we would caution you to move forward, and it's not something that we bring to the clients on a regular basis. So this piece is very important to us, and I believe this project starts in a couple of weeks. And this is one where we think that, it could bring, savings. A long, simple statement, I apologize.
No, that's fine. Ms. Kim, you mentioned, and I don't know what the context was, I apologize, but you mentioned excluding certain providers. If we go that route, we would be excluding certain providers. What do you mean by that?
All networks.
I guess, excluding providers. So there are TPAs out there where you truly can customize, right? Where you could include providers. Most providers, if for you to get a deal from a provider, they want to have some kind of steerage to them. That steerage could come in benefit design. It could come in, hey, we won't include these providers, right? And that creates the steerage to provider A versus provider B. So there's different ways that the plan can be set up to incentivize the employees to utilize providers that are giving you a better cost than what you're currently receiving today. And that, like I said, that can happen in different ways.
So in other words, and this is, we really appreciate this conversation, because this is the way that we normally see, this work throughout the year. So this is really good for us. Why do they call it a provider network? Why is the term network out there? It's because there's a select group of people that they've negotiated discounts with. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to say network. We would just say, here's your benefits, and you guys go anywhere you want, and there you go. And that's it. So all of them have pre-negotiated these discounts with certain providers, and they know who their competition is. So when they sit there and go through this negotiation, they're telling, whoever the network is, don't you let so-and-so in this network. Or if I'm going to discount my charges by X%, don't you go negotiate with them over there and, not hit them as hard as you're hitting my pocketbook. So, but again, there are TPAs and there are provider networks that are more flexible than others. So let's say that you're in a geographical area in Timbuktu and you like the network, but over in Timbuktu, you want a particular mental health provider to be included in the network. That network may come back to you and say, guys, we can't, we think it's going to be pretty difficult. If you want to let that new provider in the network, we've got to go back to the old one and maybe increase their reimbursements, because there's no way that we can let this guy in without going to tell this guy that we just did that. So a lot happens in this network, negotiation. Kim brought up a good point, and that was reference-based pricing. And I think we need to bring that up more and more, because it is certainly the way to save money, but it is certainly the way to have more disruption. So as we evaluate these networks, we kind of go back to some of those conversations that we had with the board, a few months ago, and that was, oh yeah, Blue Cross has a better network in the sense that they don't pay the providers as much money, but it's excluding certain providers. So what they're saying is, I got this network over here that has Lord's and Lafayette. Then I got this network over here that only has Lafayette. And you might find another network that does vice versa, because those guys are always competing with one another. But I leave this to the hands of our experts. And those are the guys that take entire data dumps, and I want Kim to talk about that process a little bit. They don't take a handful of claims. They drill down to subsets of zip codes. And I'm going to give you an example. I think I did this at the board, though. You may have a provider that, for simple terms, I'm going to say that he discounts his charges by 20%. But in another zip code area, he discounts his charges by 50%. So a lot of times you can't even look at where that provider to say, oh, we've given a 50% discount. Oh, yes, sir, that's correct. But what about the 20% that we was only able to negotiate in the heart of Lafayette? So it gets to be very complex.
So we've been fighting this for years, right? Disruption versus taxpayer dollars. And disruption is emotional, and taxpayer dollars are important. Which one's more important? The board tries to make that decision. It gets really tough because it gets emotional. It gets political, unfortunately, because of the position we're in. We hear a lot about discounts and discounts and discounts, and what I'm asking is, I know what the industry, I understand what the industry standard terminology is along the way, but a lot of things I would like for us to maybe consider kind of bringing down a level. We say discounts, but again, a discount on what? You're saying a 50% discount versus a 20% discount on the provider's charge.
Your
No.
charge master, somebody else's charge
Yeah.
master.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I can speak to that. So part of what our team does, and I know we use the term discount because there is a discount, but really it's based on your allowable, right? So one network's allowable charge versus the other network's allowable charge. The discount is irrelevant, right? So we want to identify what the allowable charge, which that contracted rate is for your providers that are being utilized within the population, right? So we get a full data file, right? And in that file, it's de-identified, there's no PHI, but we do get claim level information. We bump that, so we have those claims repriced, basically, right? We know the NPI numbers of the providers, we know the CPT codes, and the carriers reprice those claims based on their allowable within their contract. We bump that up to what you're paying today, because we know those numbers, right? And we can evaluate what the cost difference would look like between one network versus another network. We take into account all of the considerations, right? Anything that's going to be non-network. So, not only do we reprice, but we also do a disruption, right? So we know what providers would be in, what providers would be out, and what does that disruption look like.
And I'm going to add to that, Jeremy, once that's done, and one of the things, why are we doing this in January? Because it is too emotional. You guys have to feel a real conviction to say, this is the network that we're going to change to. I don't think that you've had that in the past. And so to come to a board meeting and say, hey, here's this Blue Connect network that Blue Cross offers, and do you guys want to do that? Well, I could say in clear conscience, I don't know if I would be able to flip that switch myself, because everybody talks about discounts. Everybody claims that they have the best discount. Everybody claims that they can save more in claims dollars. We've got to educate you guys. We got to get this market check. We got to put it in front of you, and you guys need to analyze it for at least 6 months. Not only will it include the discounts, I keep referring to discounts, the allowables, it will also say, hey, what does this TPA look like in large case management? Do they have a medical director? Are they trying to mitigate some of these large claims? Are they investigating claims? What's their duplication rates? how do they process claims? Is their systems old? Are they systems new? So all of that will be evaluated as well. I mean, what happens if you're processing claims on a legacy system that can't catch miscoded claims? All that will be taken into consideration, and we'll deliver it back to you guys so that you can, get a better understanding of all that.
Thank you. So fellow committee members, in my heart, I believe this is the potentially the biggest opportunity sitting before us. Potentially. We don't know because we haven't seen it, but we're going to see it. And let me tell you what, look, hospitals are not in business to provide health care. Hospitals provide health care, but they're in business to make money, and that's fine. But what we have to be able to do is go out and negotiate the best deals we can for the top quality health care that we're going to get no matter what, because we have top quality health care providers. We are at an advantage. We're the largest employer, and we have 10,000 lives on our plan, but not only that, listen, I believe in our culture, I'm telling you. These providers are going to consider the fact that these are our educators in our community. Not that anyone else is less than an educator, but they're going to consider this. This, to me, is potentially the largest opportunity that we have sitting in front of us to get a handle on what's going on in markets. Of course, nationwide, it's not just here. So I don't want to belabor it. I just think that this is a big deal, and it's time, if nothing else, to look at it. Because if you don't open the box, you don't know what's in the box.
You're right. I'm going to go ahead and add that you're also a target. And what I mean by that is that, if the providers are being pinched on the Medicaid and the Medicare side, which is the majority of where they're receiving their payments, and you're the largest employer, you need to make sure you have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that you're not overpaying.
Yep. Any other questions?
So we just wanted to, like I said earlier, when we were talking through the initiatives that we had put in place and the initiatives that we're going to continue to look at, new initiatives, old initiatives, right? Keep bringing the items to the table. We're going to continue to look at not only the fully insured Medicare Advantage programs, but as well as the EGWEP, which is the self-funded piece of that as well. But the reason why we're bringing this up is, one, because we want to just continue to educate. And two, because we're going to continue to look at this, we wanted to make sure that we went out to the competitive vendors. Right now, we're showing Blue Cross because that was one of the carriers that was spoken about more so in the previous meetings. But we did ask, how long are they willing to hold their rates for the plan year of 2025? So really, we wanted to highlight that Blue Cross will hold their rates until 7/1 of 2025, that rate of $298. So if at any point in time, every month when we come to these meetings, if you guys want to bring that back up to the table, we wanted to make sure and ensure that you guys knew what kind of the rules and regulations of these carriers were. So we do have some items broken up here for you to see. Blue Cross is not willing to consider a dual option between two different carriers. Humana is. So I want to say Humana is because if, again, like Mel and Kim stated, we are agnostic. So every year when I go out and I market these products, I'm sending it to every carrier, regardless if maybe your retirees are more comfortable with one carrier over another. I'm going to send it out to every carrier that's in that Medicare Advantage space. So if in fact another carrier comes back maybe more so competitive the following year, just know that Humana is willing to kind of sit side by side with another carrier. Unfortunately, in this situation, Blue Cross at this time is not. But I did really just want to point out the fact that Blue Cross is willing to hold their fee of $298 PM until 7/1 of '25. There's a few other items here that the board can review for education purposes, but I really think that that's why we really wanted to bring this back, just to notify you that they're willing to hold that rate. And then as well as, because we did increase the premiums for 1/1 of '25, and we already did go through open enrollment, I'm gonna let Kim walk through this analysis for you real quick, because we did wanna show what that would look like with the self-funded plan versus the others. I'll just,
I just want to say these are in PM numbers. The corrected page 25, was given to you, that has the total dollars that's in the appendix.
Yeah, we thought it might be helpful to break these down on a PM basis. That is the way that your Medicare Advantage premiums are being billed today, per member per month. So for illustrative purposes, we thought that this would be an easy way to kind of see the difference in the cost. So I think it was the October BIC meeting or board meeting, we presented some estimated savings, and we talked about full migration into the Medicare Advantage plan, and really just want to kind of reset, because there was two things that changed after that presentation. One, there was a change in the retiree contributions to the premium, and then the Medicare Advantage premiums did increase. So there was an increase in cost there. So this analysis takes into account those two changes, but also the shift in enrollment. So there was about 220 members that shifted from the self-funded Blue Cross plan to the Humana Medicare Advantage plan. So you'll see those numbers at the top change. So prior to open enrollment for 1/1/25, you had about 2,221 self-funded members. 421 were sitting in the Medicare Advantage plan, for a total of 2,642 retirees that are Medicare Part A and B eligible. The cost of the plan is roughly around $471 PM. What we did for 2025 is we did trend that number, because obviously, for 2025, the cost of services are going to continue to increase. So we didn't think it was fair in the analysis to keep the 471 the same. So we trended that about 10%, which is in line with medical and pharmacy trend. So an increase of about $47, which, could bring the cost of that plan up to about $518 PM. The retiree contributions did adjust. So in 2024, the average cost was about $123 PM, with the changes that were made for 1/1, and based on the enrollment numbers, that cost is at $184 PM, which leaves the net cost of the self-funded plan currently at $349, and then an estimated net cost of about $334 PM. Your Medicare Advantage premiums are $213 in 2024. There was an increase there for your renewal to $237, which brings a total cost of $327 PM and compared to $311 in 2025. So about a $17 reduction in total net spend there for 70/75. We compared that to the 2025 Blue Cross numbers, because there was a lot of discussion around that. So just wanted to illustrate that. And then, although we did not, move forward with full migration, we just wanted to compare that cost to, if you were to fully migrate, what the savings would look like by doing that. So under the Humana Medicare Advantage plan, we would estimate about another 2.3 million in savings. Under the Blue Cross, if you went full migration, it would be right under $400,000 in full migration. In savings, I'm sorry. Any questions with that? And then the last page, we really don't need to go into detail, but this is just the full benefit summary analysis between the Humana plan, what you're renewed with, and the Blue Cross option. Just recognizing that there was a decrease in out-of-pocket cost. There are some changes with the Blue Cross plan, and of course, this analysis was based on a full migration of the population moving to the Medicare Advantage plan. And that is it. That concludes our summary today.
Yes.
I just have a comment. So, and I don't know if this requires a board vote or not, so Jeremy, if I have to put this to a board vote, please let me know. I see the trailing numbers in the appendix, right? You have the last few months. Is there any way we could add to the report a breakdown of the last 12 months in like a chart of the 4 different subgroups that we have? Because back in October, we were presented with some numbers of here's the medical costs and the pharmacy costs for active employees, for Medicare Advantage, for retirees with Medicare A and B, and then the group that doesn't have Medicare or isn't eligible for Medicare and have either A or B. Could we break that down into a chart, like a visual?
You're talking about page 20 and 21?
Yes, I'm sorry, no, yes, 20 and 21, correct.
Yeah. And it is something that, so right now, yes, sir, we do have that ability. What we're going to be working with administration, since the contributions have now been split up to where we have the active, the pre-65, or the folks that don't have Medicare, and then you have the plus 65s. We're going to get the contributions broken up that way. What I can provide is now, I can provide the expenses. I just can't provide the revenue reconciliation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just want to look at costs over the subgroups over like a 12-month period, like broken down graphically,
We
just
can
to see
definitely add
trends.
that.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Well, and you can add that report as well as your monthly report.
Yes, sir.
Ongoing.
Yes,
So
sir.
I certainly we want to look at a year back, but moving forward.
No, absolutely. So I'll bring you the rolling 12 and then also the current.
Okay, I appreciate it.
All right, we got a few questions. The first one, removal of discount for retirees. Was that approved by the full board? No, that, on page 8, that's not, I don't know if that's a typo. It's clearly not accurate. There was not a removal of the premium discount. There was a 50% increase in premium, and yes, that was approved by the board. If a retiree goes to a doctor who does not accept Medicare, does LPSS pay 100% of the claim? If so, shouldn't this expense be the responsibility of the retiree?
Are you referring under the self-funded plan or the Medicare Advantage plan?
Well, it doesn't matter if a retiree goes to a doctor who does not accept Medicare. So, I presume this is either way. If they don't accept Medicare, then
On the self-funded plan covers it.
they don't accept Medicare, then 100% of it, I was hoping you would answer it, and you will, but our plan pays 100% of it. If they don't accept Medicare,
It's just standard coordination of benefits, so the answer would be the plan would pay the claim.
Is the plan set up to require them to have Medicare Part A and B?
No.
No.
It does?
and let me clarify,
Okay, so.
we can only be talking about Medicare eligible
Yeah, we're trying to figure out
retirees, yeah.
how the
Right.
plan document reads.
So I believe your plan document, and Trish, I don't have the plan document in front of me today, but I believe your plan document does read that even if a member does not have Part A and B, but they are eligible for A and B, that the plan will process the claim as if they have Part A and B coverage. Is that right? No?
I don't think so. Could we get back to you on that? Because it's a plan document question. And I have to refer
You
to-
can, but we have had this discussion many times on the board floor. And the response has always been, and again, the number is about $2.4 million worth of claims where a retiree is Medicare eligible, they're on Medicare, they go to a provider that does not accept Medicare, and 100% of the claim comes to our plan.
That's what I would think, Jeremy.
Yeah.
There's two ways that the plans can be written. I think your plan is written that way, but I'd love to see the plan document just to confirm, okay? Now, you can amend your plan document, and you can say exactly what Kim just said.
which is probably more of a standard practice.
Can you say it again?
Sure. So any member that is Medicare eligible and they are on your self-funded plan, your plan document can read that, one, they're required to get Medicare Part A and B, and that the plan will process as secondary coverage. Even if they don't have it, it's gonna process as if they should have it.
So let me use an example. Part B is your outpatient, a lot of high-dollar imaging. Let's just say that high-dollar imaging is $5,000, and they go to a provider that does not accept Medicare. Well, in that case, the plan right now considers that $5,000 is eligible, and they process, taking a deductible or not a deductible, or 100%, depending upon where that person sits in that cycle. If they process it the same way that Kim does, we just spoke of, they exclude the $5,000 and don't take that into consideration. You can amend your plan document.
What's taken into consideration?
The patient has to pay it on their own.
They get balance billed.
They get balance billed, that $5,000.
So
The plan doesn't consider it
we've
because they're
had-
basically trying to say, you should have gone out and bought Medicare Part B coverage.
So we've had extensive conversation about this, and I asked, and other board members asked, why are we allowing this? And I was told, we were told, there's nothing you can do about it. But you're telling me today that there is something we can do about it.
There's something you can do about it. You can amend your plan document. I don't want to get into.
So, by the way, I didn't write this question. Again, the question was, if a retiree goes to a doctor who does not accept Medicare, does LPSS pay 100% of the claim? Yes. We can agree to that, right?
We can agree with it to the exception of I want to refer to the plan document for accuracy. I think we have had I think that was brought up, we're new with this and we're new, but I think that is.
We've had a lot of conversation
Yeah.
about it. Trish?
When we posed this question to our Blue Cross executive rep, the answer was no, that LPSS could not do anything. However, based on the statement that we just got from Gallagher, perhaps it's a plan doc issue to which could be evaluated, and then the plan docs revised, and then we move forward with it at that point. So I would concur with what Gallagher is saying. We can go back to Blue Cross,
It could have been the way
review the plan documents, and then assess it from
I'm sorry to
there.
interrupt, but just to kind of expound on what the superintendent said earlier and not taking no for an answer. When we asked, can we do this? And we were told, no, Blue Cross said you can't. Well, what is that based on, right? It needs to be based on, can we do it? No, we can't. Why can't we do it? Because your plan document doesn't allow it. Okay, we're going to change the plan document. We have to be moving faster. We have to be thinking faster than this. We
So
just
keep
have
in
to.
mind, when we had those conversations, we had a different consultant. I'd have to go back to the email chain to review it. I believe we had numerous discussions about it as well. I'm just giving a brief overview of what the discussion was with a summary of it. But we can certainly double back to it, assess it, and have conversations with Gallagher.
Could we please ensure that this topic is on the next agenda item?
100%.
Yes,
no
sir.
problem.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And the
we'll
last
check.
question is, please explain neoplasm point solution. Would it affect physicians and facilities treating patients?
Yeah. I think the answer is that it could, depending on the solution that the board would move forward with. The concept around a cancer carve-out is, like Lana said, as little as supporting preventative services in a different way to second opinion type of solutions, right? To help steer people to the most effective, high-quality metrics providers for the best treatment and care, so that we're trying to manage the cost of those services. But there's no answer. It's too early to get an answer on that, but it could, yes.
It looks like we might have another one or two questions, and then we're gonna,
Jeremy, while we wait on those, we talked about plan recommendations, looking at the benefits. I think we'll do a plan document forensic review.
the next question, the final question is, there's a small group of retirees who are prohibited from being on Medicare A and B by LPSB. Well, I don't know if it's by LPSB. I think that was a state issue. But anyway, I'm not going there. That needs to be considered in plan, plan documents moving forward. It will be.
Always.
It always has been.
Yeah.
They have never been excluded. They have never been treated badly. They are not being treated badly on this situation. However, I will say that we learned recently, and I would like you guys to speak to it. I'm not the professional at it, but we learned recently that in fact there are individuals who were eligible for Part A, mostly Part B, who did not purchase it. They chose not to. And now they're so far along into their life that if we made them purchase it, they would be so heavily penalized that I don't think any board member could stomach that. But let's not forget, let's remember that the idea that they were all ineligible for it is not an accurate statement. They chose not to get it, and now I don't think we could put that penalty on them. It would be horrific to them, but let's not blame LPSB.
They
Speak
saved
to
that
it, please.
Premium year over year.
Microphone, please.
Melody just mentioned that they saved that premium year over year by not purchasing it. But yeah, I mean,
Of course they did.
Yeah.
I mean,
So there are some school boards that take a harder stance than what you're referring to, Jeremy.
Okay, well, I think this board has already spoken. I'm not going to speak for them. I'm not bringing it back. But I think that we need to be very cautious before we blame LPSS or anyone else when it's a personal decisions that have been made over the years. Okay, thank you for your reports. Mrs. LaBeouf? We're going to move on to item 2.3, discussion or action regarding the Insurance Benefits Department staff report.
Good morning, everyone. We have a lot of information in my staff report this morning, so I thought I would provide some visuals just to talk through the changes that have occurred over the last couple months to include being effective on January 1st and moving forward. So within my staff report this morning, we're going to discuss what's occurred during the open enrollment period with both our active and retired members. I'm going to tell you the educational workshops, both with the Louisiana Department of Insurance and our Humana, to include our active members during the open enrollment period. And then I'm just going to recap the benefit changes that are coming effective January 1st. So just to give you an update with regard to our open enrollment period, it was a very busy one. We processed 3 times the amount of open enrollment changes that we do in any typical year. Because of that, it was due to multiple things, premium changes, we made offerings to our retired members that provided some education that allowed for change there too. So if you look on the left side of the screen, I'll just talk through the active employees first, and then we'll move on to the retired members. So essentially, open enrollment is the time of year that allows members to make changes to their benefits. Every single member has an opportunity in the fall every single year to review it, to assess their benefits, and then to make changes accordingly. Our active members can make both benefit changes to group health insurance and our voluntary benefits. So voluntary benefits are essentially every benefit except for group health. So just providing some information, we try and provide multiple touch points with our communications. We know not everybody reads their work email, so we provided a mail out, work emails, text messages, flyers, administrators, and website. During the open enrollment period, members who wanted to make changes to voluntary benefits, they had to connect with AGM and Hub, which is our TPA. Of the 4,701, 2,828 were seen, so approximately 61%. This year was an open enrollment where if you didn't need to make a change, you didn't need to meet with the provider in order to secure your benefits for the following year. So AGM and Hub offered some new options this year. The self-enrollment online was one of them, to include the call center. This allowed our employees not to have to either get out of the classroom or meet directly in person with the voluntary benefits counselors, which were on campus. So I believe it was a tip or toe in the water type scenario, and I think it was very beneficial to them. You can see 10% of our members tried the new self-enrollment option, and then, of course, calling to the call center to talk through their benefit changes. A larger majority of our members did meet in person. I think some of them are just used to it, or perhaps they like to do it. So we offered three total options for our members to make benefit changes under voluntary. Members who needed to make changes under group health insurance connected with the department directly here at the district office. We provided information via email to where they could make changes via a form. We did have a large transition of members to the high deductible plan this year, approximately 182, and a large transition of members to the basic, 66. I would partially attribute that to the premium increases that the active members are going to see effective January 1st. Members who were on the higher plans did migrate to either the basic or the high deductible. So we've worked through those numbers. We've processed over 500 total changes for active members, but you can see that there is going to be a larger shift with a lower premium paid on behalf of the employee for those who move to the high plan, but of course their risk will be more because their deductible will be increasing. Every single open enrollment, we do provide educational workshops to our active employees. We send out communications. We had 2 in-person meetings here at district office where we had 50 attendees come. We just try and educate them on their plan offerings to see if they've got questions or perhaps reassess whether they're truly on the right plan. You know, I always ask members to reassess every single year. Each year is different from year to year. I don't know that I would necessarily stay on the same plan, but I would definitely reassess it in any given year. And then on the right side of the screen, you'll see our retired members. Again, if the retiree didn't make a change, it just rolled over to the next year, 2025. For those members, we communicated via mail out, email, text messages, calls, and the website to try and educate them on the opportunities available to them during the open enrollment period. For our retired members, it's a little bit different. They are only allowed to make group health insurance changes with the district. When they leave the district for voluntary benefits, they leave with the benefits that they had on their payroll based on the continuation of that directly with the carrier. So Gallagher mentioned in the reporting that we did have a total of 227 members move from our Blue Cross plan to the Humana Medicare Advantage plan, effective January 1st. We worked with those members and educated them through educational workshops during that process. Louisiana Department of Insurance, we are super appreciative of Gallagher setting that up for us. They put us in touch with Ms. Vicky, who came for 4 in-person workshops here at the district office. We had a total of 125 attendees, and I think the biggest bang was the YouTube. We appreciate our IT department, who came in. They recorded 2 of those sessions for us, which are now up on the website. I checked the other day, and between the 2 videos that are up, we've had over 1,000 retirees listen to those videos and become more educated. Ms. Vicky came and spoke on Medicare, just your general Medicare benefits in particular. And then she also just introduced them to the available options outside of LPSS, since it was the open enrollment period, just to provide some education. And then the later half of those sessions, LPSS Insurance spoke on the changes that were going to be happening effective January 1st, which for some of our retirees, it included a premium increase. And then our last and final educational workshop was with Humana. Humana came down, they rented the Cecil Picard Center. We had over 130 retirees come and attend and at least listen and educate themselves on that opportunity. During that process, Humana spoke for a good hour and just tried to provide what the plan offers and how to go about making a transition during the open enrollment period if they wanted to. We did offer our retirees online and call center options during the open enrollment period. We also assisted multiple members with customer service inquiries and pointed them in the right direction. Any questions on open enrollment?
No, but I would like to say, fellow board members, that open enrollment brings about change. And so all of the numbers that we have been hearing and that we are getting accustomed to, let's expect that there's going to be some changes in that, because based on the fact, people are moving from the PPO to the high deductible. So I just wanted to point out, let's keep that into consideration next plan year, because those numbers are not going to be identical, and we hope they're better. But
so this is just a visual to recap those premium changes that are going to become into effect January 1st. Our active members pay that premium a month in advance off their payroll, so it's going to hit their December payroll. I wanted to remind them that there's a 10% premium increase effective January 1st, and then just provide the basically enhanced and high deductible premiums of what that increase will look like to the member. So just a visual and a reminder that it is coming effective January 1st, so members should see that on their payroll stub. So moving forward, we're going to describe our members a little bit differently, in particular our retired members. We're now going to have 3 rate charts, the first one being the active member rate chart. Then we have our retired members who are under age 65, those with Medicare Part A and no B, Part B and no A, 65 plus without Medicare, or an LPSS retiree return to work. So this right here is their rate chart. If they fit into that group of members, this is specific to them. So if you remember correctly, when we pushed out open enrollment communications, we reminded this group of members that their premium will now align with the active employees effective January 1st. This group of retirees received a 10% premium increase in July. So essentially, they're not receiving an increase effective January 1st. We're just aligning it with the exact same rate chart as the active members. So again, just another visual to remind members of what grouping they're in. And because the 65 plus member rate chart is comprehensive this time because we added those hybrid rates, I did a general screenshot of it. I can zoom in. Those rate charts are being posted to the website. If I'm saying that correct, they're already up. We are working through those 2025 changes. But again, members who are 65 plus with Medicare A and B, this now is your rate chart. And the board did approve a 50%, a 50 premium increase effective January 1st. When we work through the open enrollment process, we now have those new hybrid rates. Hybrid essentially means that if I had a couple, a married couple on a plan under the basic and they both had Medicare, it gave that couple opportunities available to them where they could split. Perhaps one member wanted to stay on our Blue Cross plan and the other member perhaps wanted to go to our Medicare Advantage plan under Humana. So those hybrids allows them to split moving forward effective January 1st. And in most instances, if I'm saying this correctly, all instances, it provided a cost savings for the member had they just stayed under Blue Cross by providing a split. So just a friendly reminder, we now have 3 rate charts moving forward. When we speak of retired members in particular, to make sure we're all on the same page, I'll identify them based on the grouping that they're a part of. Okay. And then effective January 1st, this is just a friendly reminder that our basic and enhanced members, your deductibles will be increasing. Anything that you see on red, in the red portions of the table, those are the increases with regard to the deductible. Basic plan is increasing from $950 to $1,200 with a family deductible of $3,600. And then the enhanced is also increasing from $800 to $1,100 with a family deductible increasing of $3,300. As you can notice, there was no change to the high deductible plan based on the approval by the board. Friendly reminder about our high deductible members, and the RX benefits is where our pharmacy is transitioning to for those members who are specifically under the high deductible health plan. The basic and enhanced members are already under RX benefits. So they have already started shipping out communications to members, notifying them to be on the lookout for their new cards. Reminder, those members who have the high plan, you're going to need to give your pharmacy your new card, your membership ID card from Blue Cross Blue Shield, because it's going to have new information of how your prescriptions are going to run through. So be on the lookout for those communications. They have already started hitting doorsteps. If we are going to communicate and have been communicating with active members to remind, and retirees to remind them of these changes and who to connect with should they have concerns or problems. And then last but not least is the pharmacy deductible reminder that our members under SilverScripts will see your prescription deductible is going from $100 to $250 per member effective January 1st. So just friendly reminders, there was a lot going on effective January 1st. I just wanted to reiterate that. And Gallagher spoke to this piece, and during their presentation, we have been communicating with our members. TRIA Health is a new benefit that we're putting on board effective January 1st. We're super excited about it. It's available at no cost to both active and retirees. If you look to the right in the blue box, it mentions those members who may have chronic conditions associated with diabetes or heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. There's a long list of associated ailments with regard to chronic conditions. TRIA Health can help work alongside you. It is a licensed pharmacist that will take a look at your medications. I kind of think of it as a concierge type service with an educated, degreed pharmacist to where they can assess your medications, see whether you're taking the right medications, see if you've got overlapping medications. I'll give you an example. Let's just say I see a doctor in the Ochsner's network and I also see one with Lord's. Perhaps those medical records are not aligned, and the doctor who is seeing me in one or the other is not realizing that I'm taking a certain med and it's conflicting with the other because I forget to mention it when I discuss it with my physician. So this concierge type service from our licensed pharmacist will help you through these processes to get your health care back in line if you've got those chronic conditions. So please be on the lookout for our ongoing district communications. We are also working with identifying those members who have those chronic conditions, and we're going to do direct outreach to those members, TRIA Health will, and help you and ask questions and help identify you and work alongside you so that you have better health moving forward. So that's just an introduction. We have communicated it during open enrollment. I just wanted to remind members it's now going to be a benefit to you in about another week or two. And then Gallagher also spoke to this earlier in their presentation, Lantern Surgical Center of Excellence. We're super excited about this too. It's coming on board effective March 1st. So what essentially is Lantern? It's going to be an offering of a cost savings to members who have non-emergency planned surgeries. It allows you to connect with Lantern to see what type of surgeons in their center of excellence is available to you. They're going to help walk you through that process if you have an upcoming surgery. They're going to identify those surgeons, make some offerings to you, help walk alongside with you through the process, both through the surgery and thereafter, just to get connected, and it's going to be a cost savings. Examples of available procedures I've listed there, like your knee, your shoulder, ankle, numerous different offerings. So if you're in need of an upcoming surgery, you know you've got a problem with your knee, you've just been putting it off, definitely be on the lookout for our communications beginning March or leading up to March. Lantern comes on board effective March 1st. We may be able to get you connected through this service to where it would be a cost savings to you. So please just be aware of this new service available to you and to be on the lookout for my communications. And then we spoke on this briefly again through the Gallagher presentation. Mr. Hidalgo, I know you have a couple questions about this, so I'll provide you with an update. So what is the BMI dependent audit? It has caused a lot of customer service calls. We are super appreciative of everybody who has worked through the process already. We do know that we still need to communicate with those members who were still outstanding. I believe we have 453 with no response whatsoever. That means you've not even started the process yet. The deadline is January 10th. So what is the BMI dependent audit? Essentially, the district is wanting to ensure that every single dependent, that would be your spouse or your children, listed on your group health insurance plan is indeed your spouse and your child. So we're going to need public records. It has to be a certified document. I'll give you a couple examples, like a marriage certificate signed by the priest, who is, if that document is not publicly recorded with the court, it's not going to be considered an eligible document. I'm going to need one that was recorded directly with the court publicly. If you do not have that document, yes, you will have to go through the steps in order to obtain that document and then upload it to BMI, who is the administrator who is working through this process directly with us. Essentially, the easiest way to say it is a new requirement of the district. The board did approve it. We are trying to facilitate those calls and redirect members to BMI who can check their eligibility and give members direction. Let's just say they've uploaded something and it's not being accepted for one reason or another. BMI can specifically speak on why that document is a concern or is not acceptable. If I am married, I'll use me as an example through this process. I have already completed it. Essentially, letters are coming in the mail. There's a total of 3. The first one shipped out on 11/8, second one 12/2, and then there's going to be a third and final on 12/20, with the final deadline, meaning all of your paperwork has to be in and it has to be approved by BMI. Your deadline for response is Friday, January 10th, 2025. I want to pause for a second and state it again. In order to be fully finalized with the audit, your documents have to be received and the keyword approved by BMI Audit Services prior to the January 10th deadline. Please don't decide to upload your documents on the 8th, the 9th, or the 10th and expect everything to be approved and processed, because you want to give BMI time to review your records, and if there's an issue, you want to have time in order to correct the issue. So back to my example.
Ms. LaBeouf,
Yes, ma'am.
1 second. So I think what Ms. LaBeouf is saying, you can't begin the process on
Right.
the 10th. So, example, I uploaded my stuff last Tuesday, and a week late, yesterday, I got a notice that one of my documents wasn't clear enough or I needed a different one. So it took a week for the review of that. So you cannot begin the process on January 10th. It needs to be completed for January 10th.
Exactly.
And let me
Yes,
make a
ma'am.
suggestion moving forward.
Okay.
If the deadline to be cut off is January the 10th, then I would suggest that we consider in the future not putting our deadline as January 10th. Put the deadline as January the 5th, so that, you know, because what we're doing is we're saying the deadline is January 10th, but it's really not January 10th. I mean, that's when you're gonna get cut off. We need to have a more conservative deadline moving forward.
So we wanted to give members ample time to respond back to it. We have started communications back in open enrollment on the 14th of October. They've received numerous mailouts, total of 3 mailouts directly from BMI, work emails, text messages with clickable links and PDFs. We've sent out videos and flyers. I'll go back to my example with regard to me. I received my letter in the mail. It had a QR code on it, and it was specific to me, the member. My member ID number associated with the audit is a certain number. I scanned it with my iPhone. I was able to answer their questions because you've got to identify who you are, list point of contact information in it. Then I was able to take pictures of my document and then upload them directly from the QR code. There are numerous ways to do so. Members who perhaps don't have a phone, there's a fax option. Members can also mail it. There have been communications on where to send your documents to. The QR code is one, and also off of the bmiverify.com website. So they have a total of 4 options in order to upload their documents. I'll reiterate what Ms. Gardner just noted. Please enter your stuff and upload it in sufficient time to allow BMI to assess your documents and then either approve them or tell you you have a problem. Please do not wait to that last week of January 10th. In order to start this process, I need members to start it ahead of time. For those members who, the 453, we're going to work through identifying, we already know who those members are. We're going to start direct communicating with those members in particular to give them additional instructions and remind them that they need to work through this process. I'm hopeful that we all have a wonderful holiday season, but that members will tackle this over the holidays and upload those documents so that we can get near to that 100% compliance, because it is a compliance item. I just want to mention ineligible, incomplete, and non-responsive members will be canceled from the LPSS health insurance plan. So please, I encourage all of our members who have a dependent is a spouse or a child, you've got to work through this process.
Can you, for the record, briefly clarify why a certified document is required?
What BMI does is they take your document, which is publicly recorded, and they verify it in the system with vital records is how they approve the document, which is why it has to be a certified document. I'll give you an example. I mean, you can produce a document that looks official when technically it isn't. So the route and the reason why members may have to take extra steps if they don't have this is it needs to be certified, which is why you have to give BMI a couple days to review your information and then approve it or give you additional direction on concerns. I will identify some of the common concerns that have been coming through is member uploads the marriage certificate and it's the one signed off by the clergy. Obviously we live in a predominantly Catholic area, so it's the one signed by the priest that doesn't have a seal on it, that it's recorded with the court. So the one that the priest signed off on, if it doesn't have a recording by the court, is not going to be sufficient. So that's one of the issues. Members may scan a document and it's not legible, or perhaps the seals are not prevalent when they scan the document. Those have been the 2 most common. The other piece with the spouse is you have to produce the certified marriage certificate in addition to a joint document dated within the last 90 days. Please pay attention to the 90-day part. If I produce something from January of 2024, it's not going to be accepted. A joint document might be, I have a auto bill or my Slimco bill, my tax return with your redacted information. Anything that shows both you and your spouse's joint document with both of your names listed on it dated within the last 90 days. So that concludes my, my staff report. Any questions?
Mr. Hidalgo, I have a question. Trish, so what happens if we have a new employee and moving forward after this audit is done, how often is this going to take place, throughout the years?
I am going to review how well this process goes. And then based on that, because there is a cost associated with BMI, discuss it with building it into the budget moving forward. Because we squeezed it into the budget this year, is how I'll describe it, based on my current budget. And then I would like to do it moving forward, depending on board direction and board approval. But I would like to know that it's a value benefit to the district, so I would like to assess it first. And if it is, then yes, I would like to put it in the budget moving forward.
So, Mr. Superintendent, the idea here, as you remember, as you know, is that this initial round was actually going to be a potential significant cost savings. But then if we do it moving forward as a maintenance item, it's a cost to the district, but certainly we'll see what the outcome is. We'll get a report and find out, we'll monetize it, and then I guess from there decide if it's worth moving forward with. But, we're using some pretty strong language here today, that if it's not turned in and it's not, accepted and approved, that your health insurance will be canceled. But we really need to also know, maybe not today, but very, very soon, what's going to happen soon thereafter that. Because, if we're saying we're going to cancel people and then, it's not open enrollment anymore, so you can't get back on, I can't go for that. So we're going to need to figure out exactly how we're going to handle the ones that slip through the cracks, the ones that just don't meet that particular deadline, because canceling them and they have no insurance until next year is not going to be acceptable to me. Maybe it will to the board, but.
So when we worked with BMI, that's the whole purpose of the audit. It does have that, I'm going to call it an ultimatum, because there has to be a consequence. I guess a consequence would be a better word, based on a member not responding.
This is a great consequence, and if someone's insurance gets canceled because of their lack of attention to this, they will quickly produce the documents. And I want to make sure that they'll be able to return once they produce the documents. Okay,
so then if we could work through what your concept and thought process is with regard to that, yes, we can put some measures in place if that's the case. But keep in mind then your deadline for January 10th would be later than that based on that statement. Okay.
Trish, all of the information for the audit is on the website?
It has been ongoing communications. We can add it to our department website. Yes, sir. I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add, I'm going to echo Jeremy's concerns about kicking people off. Because we have had questions in the past about how accurate mailing addresses and phone numbers and everything else are. So if anybody's not getting certain communications or things like that, I just want to make sure that
I am keeping ongoing tabs on that. Any return mail does come to me in a report, and I communicate directly with the member. To this moment, to this date, members have already had upwards of 13 different forms of communication.
Okay.
To include, we're trying to put those different touch points because members are different. Maybe a custodian is not checking their work email. So we're providing calls to their cell phone with a PDF resource available to them. Administration has also been pushing that down to their employees based on each school location. We've had multiple forms, but we've been trying to stay on top of it. I've been communicating directly with members, and staff has been answering any customer service questions. and pointing them back to BMI to work through the process. But I can certainly work through your concerns, and we can talk through what your thoughts and processes would be.
There's certainly been quite a bit of communication, I agree with that. And while I agree with the process used, let's keep in mind, I mean, I don't know how many people have certified copies of their marriage certificates. I never did. I had the priest copy. So I have to go during the hours of operation at the courthouse, okay, just like banker's hours, and get that document and pay for it. No big deal. But if I have to take off of work, look.
You can get it mailed, if I'm saying that correct. Yes, sir.
That's not what I was told by the courthouse this morning. Now, if that's inaccurate, that'd be good to know, because I asked if it could be electronically delivered. Nope. The option was 8 to 3 or 9 to 3, 5 days a week. You can come in and get it. I like the process. I think it's a fair process. I think what we're doing is a good thing. If we're gonna say you're cut off and you're cut off until next year, that's a no-go. So we're gonna have to figure that out.
Yeah, I just have one thing, Trish. I'm a new employee. Why is it that your team from this point forward, for every new employee, require that these documents are submitted so that we don't, moving forward, we don't need BMI to tell us this.
Right. We have measures in place. We are working through that process. This current audit initiated by BMI is only taking members through 12/31. But yes, we do have measures in place moving forward. It's just not going to be certified by the department, is the easiest way to describe it.
I think that I was sideboarding with Mr. Hidalgo to try and get his vision of the conversation between Ms. LaBeouf and himself. And I think when we were sideboarding, I think that the thought is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is I have not turned in my paperwork, I've not logged in, or I haven't completed everything by January 10th, and I'm removed because despite all the communications or whatever, it's not been followed through. I've not been vetted. If I'm removed, and let's say it takes till February 15th to get all my stuff uploaded, vetted, and squared away by BMI, then any insurance, medical expenses that I would obtain from the time I was cut off to the time that I would be eligible and verified to get back on and pay my premium, then I would be responsible for the medical expenses in that window. Is that what we're trying to suggest, Mr. Hidalgo, possibly?
That's fair enough for me. I mean, if you're cut off, you don't have insurance, but being cut off is just showing how serious this process is. So until you get back on, you're responsible for your medical care. Yeah.
Okay. I just have two questions, if you don't mind. And perhaps it may require Gallagher coming up here. Cost savings to the district. If the district initiates a process similar to this, would that compromise any cost savings or guarantees associated with the BMI audit? Can you speak on that or no?
It may. We can definitely look into that. There are guarantees in place that, what you are paying, they have guaranteed a return on that investment. So that's a conversation we would definitely have to have with BMI. More importantly, I think that, allowing people to come on, you really need to think through that. So do you allow them to come back on and then retro back like they had no lapse in coverage and have to pay back premium? If there's a gap there, the concern that I would have in both of these scenarios is with your stop loss carrier. So making sure that they're comfortable with that arrangement as well in the event that there are a larger claimant and, today, that is not a reason or qualifying event for them to get back on the plan. So we would have to make sure your plan document aligns and your stop loss contract aligns with that.
Well, let's find out, and then let's put an ultimate deadline. How about that? How about January 10th hits, you got 200 people that still haven't responded. They get cut off, they get notified. All of a sudden, your phones are blowing off the desk, and you say, you better get on it because March 15th, you can't come back on. So, I think that we need to, look, we have, 10,000 lives here, right? So it's a beast, and we need to have that, our own stop loss.
That would be my concern too. We will be vetting any of that list of members prior to canceling. It's not going to be a button to where we just cancel their insurance. It's going to get reviewed. So we can certainly talk through that process, yes, sir. And that's all that I have for you this morning.
Anyone else? All right, with that said, this meeting is adjourned.